Hello, this is George from Upfish, your marketing automation expert, and today's video is part one of a huge amount of videos I've got released, where basically I'll be showing you how to use a bunch of interconnected automations in a single Airtable to run your entire business, essentially, the marketing and sales aspects of it at least, with just one click. So the idea here is that all marketing and sales functions will be reduced to just 4 hours a day, so you can focus on actually creating value. Now, the first step of this is going to be a pretty boring one. We've covered it before. It's in creating assistants for all of your brands. So as I said, you've seen it before. What's different here? What's different here is that it will create individual brands for individual assistants for all of your brands. So if you happen to run more than one or you're an agency, it'll create brands for all of them. And then using assistant in OpenAI that it creates specifically for that brand, you'll be able to generate outbound campaigns with just a single click. So here we have this is all blank, we'll fill it in as we go. But essentially, you'll be able to create just a single click, Apollo outbound campaigns, LinkedIn outbound campaigns, and ones that track open jobs. So this all covers emails. You'll be able to create Google ad campaigns with just a single click that are targeted for certain keywords and certain geographies so that it makes sense for your clients. You'll be able to create social campaigns. So you can just type in, for example, I want to create 20 Instagram videos or 10 LinkedIn posts, and it will just generate them and post them automatically for you on LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube or whatever. You'll be able to monitor all of the contact through the outbound campaigns. You'll be able to monitor all the opportunities. In addition to the social media posts that we create, you'll also be creating content for all of these different people. Those are videos, these are long form blogs, and it will also track third-party things. So if you're working with a brand who doesn't have any internal systems and you're reliant on external news feeds to update Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, it handles that too. So it's basically a one-stop shop, and it all starts out with adding in a brand. So to walk you through what happens here, basically we're essentially adding in my case, for example, Upfish. I'm putting in some information. What we really need is some documents to support that assistant. So in this particular case, what we're going to be using is these documents here. So one of them will be a value prop doc. Okay. So essentially what this is a document. I have the format. So taking a step back here, if you're interested in this document, it's on my school. So $49 a month at the current price. In addition to these videos and these JSONs, you also get the templates for the Airtable, but also templates for creating all of these documents I'm about to go through. And if you check out my if that's too difficult for you to do, you can also go to Gumroad, and there's a package there where I'll help you walk through it one-on-one, or another package where I just handle it all for you. But essentially, first step is to create a value proposition document. So this is what the assistant is going to look at to decide what does, in my case, Upfish do. So when it's responding to emails on my behalf, or when it's sending outbound emails or creating ad campaigns or whatever, it wants to know what is Upfish, what do they do, what are their prices. So here I have the elevator pitch, where I'm basically, just a short thing of what I do, who I am, and why my clients should care about what I do, my current client base, the problems I solve and how, my future client aspirations, the journey I take clients on, services and pricing, my philosophy, important links, my personal objectives. So this is how it will help me decide on which opportunities to ignore and which to follow based on my own personal goals. Style guides, my USP. I haven't filled in case studies and testimonials yet. Expertise and credentials, process overview, all of this stuff. Now, again, anybody can create this. The only thing to keep in mind is an assistant's going to be looking at this. So it's important you format it properly. So as you see here, I've got headers, I've got titles. What this does is it means it's easier for the assistant to find the right information. This is a problem a lot of people make. Another thing I try to put in as much as possible is boxes. Because when you have just, for example, imagine 6 pages of text and you ask an AI assistant, find the right thing from here, it might be hard for it to do. But if everything is properly sort of formatted, properly constructed with headers and boxes, it makes it a whole lot easier to get the right information so it's right all the time. So this is one of the docs we're going to be using. We also have a YouTube format doc. So again, if you don't use YouTube, this is not important, but I do use YouTube and I want my assistant to make my YouTube descriptions for me. So here I have a description template, intro, promotional links mentioned, an example. I also have my writing style here. So again, I have the general style, my post structure, content themes, elements to always include, my tone and voice, additional instructions, and examples here. So here I just have my LinkedIn post examples. You can easily just copy and paste this, put in Instagram examples, outbound email examples, all of this stuff. Again, this is in a table, so it's easier for it to read. So the whole idea here is that when I'm asking my assistant to create written content, because it's going to be handling my emails, it's going to be handling my LinkedIn messages, my Instagram posts, I want it to do it as close as possible. So for LinkedIn, all I did actually, I just went into my LinkedIn profile and I looked up my 10 most popular posts and just copied and pasted them in. I do have a cool automation, which I'll be showing later on in this, which doesn't actually use Maker NA10 for a change. It uses an Apple automator to just log into LinkedIn on my behalf once a day, grab post statistics, and then update this document. But that's for later on. Keeping this simple to begin with, anybody can create this. Although again, this particular document is in my school community, so you can just copy and paste it from there if you want. But these are the three that you need to sort of, if it's you, spend a lot of time doing it because this is informing your assistant. Likewise, if you're doing this on behalf of someone else, you want to sit down with them for an hour, get this properly filled in for the YouTube format, value prop, and writing style. And then there are three other docs. One of them is an Apollo Calls doc. You don't need to do anything here. This is included. It's basically 79 pages of information that our assistant can use to construct searches on Apollo to find people. So for example, if I just move my big head out of the way here, I have here industry tags. So I've just gone through it and I've taken the time to actually, scrape all of the industry names and the industry ID. So for again, people who know how Apollo works, when you're making a call to say, I want to find CEOs in think tanks or whatever, you can't type in think tanks. You need the industry ID. That's not easy to find, but I went into the inspect element. I pulled off this information. So again, this is all in a Google Doc in my school. What this does is this document, once you've uploaded it to your assistant, it allows it to essentially you to type, to interact with your assistant and say, hey, I need an outbound campaign to find data science people in France, whatever, and it will construct that JSON for you, put it into NA10, find the people. So you just need to do one click, no copying and pasting, no constructing filters in the Apollo UI. Very, very simple. Same goes for Google Ads. So as part of this automation package, we're also creating Google Ads. This is actually not so necessary because I've instructed my automation to basically not have to use this doc. But I've put in some examples of steps it needs to take just to keep it on the safe side. So again, it's all there. And finally, FAQs. So I have a very, very basic FAQ here. There's not a lot of questions people ask me because I'm an open book. They'll say, George, who is behind you? And I'll say, I'm looking the wrong way. That is Huguette. She is a dog. She is from France. That's why she has a stupid name. Don't need to put that in my FAQs. Well, I'm talking too fast. Take a step back. Basically, what's going to happen here is we create docs, very easily done for all of these clients we have. And then over a button, we should be able to create an assistant for them. So to create the assistant, we need to pop into Airtable, and then we will pop into make.com to see the automation that makes it work. Okay, so for the first step, pop into the Airtable where we have a brands tab. And essentially what we have here is a few columns, one for status. So obviously, this means that if you're working with someone who stops paying you money, you can just mark them as stopped and it won't run any more automations for that person. I'm going to keep this person as active for a moment. Assistant instructions, pretty straightforward. I've kept this as a variable field, so you can change the assistant instructions depending on your particular needs. But there doesn't need to be anything too complex here. You are my, and then I'll put my name in here, George Woodworth, marketing and sales assistant. You help me make better marketing and sales decisions and execute them for me. Okay? Easy peasy. What this will do is basically it will create an assistant with these instructions. It doesn't really matter so much the instructions of the assistant because every time we ask the assistant for information, we're giving it an additional prompt specific to the situation. So don't need to get into it. I also have my website here. So I'll just put in fish.co.uk. So if at any point in one of the automations it needs to basically look at my website or get information, it has that at hand. We have the modified time here, which is set to be on the status. Doesn't really matter. The files, we've mentioned the files earlier. I'll add those in later to show you how it happens, but you can add it directly from this tab here. These are basically lookups for that. Google Drive link. So when the automation works, it's going to create a dedicated Google folder in my Drive for this particular brand. So I don't need to add anything here. You have a button for creating the brand, which I'm not going to click yet. And the button is pretty ugly, actually. You can update this yourself. Change the colors, change the background of it. I haven't bothered because I don't really care. But there's a few more interesting bits here. So one of them is a Google Ads number. So here, for example, I can put in information from my Google Ads. This means that for every brand, I'll be asking Google Ads for information specific to that brand. Same goes for analytics, same goes for YouTube, Instagram, which is already pre-filled for some strange reason. I must have made a mistake there. LinkedIn business ID, Slack ID, we'll keep that blank, and the principal contact. So I'll just say this is George at upfish.co or whatever. Okay, so that doesn't really matter. So what do I need to get this put out? So I need to put in my Google Ads number. Let me figure out where that is. Here it is. So I'll just copy and paste this in. Hopefully no one can do anything bad with my Google Ads number. I feel pretty bad if someone sees this video and takes this information, but I don't think you should be able to. I can't think of a simple reason for it. Again, if you don't know where to find your Google Ads, your Google Analytics, your YouTube channel ID, you could just ask Perplexity or Google. It is also, again, in the course, which you can easily, not that even the course, the package of all of these videos and Jason's. So if you want me to explain it to you, you can, but I'm basically going to tell you the exact same thing Google's going to tell you. So I'll fit in all of this information. So now what's going to happen is it's going to create an assistant for Upfish with these instructions, all right? And if it works, we'll see that there's a Google Drive link and a Google Drive ID, and we'll also see an assistant be created. So here in my assistants, you'll see one here called Upfish Marketing and Sales Assistant with all of this information. So a step after this is, of course, then to start adding in those files we showed you earlier. So I'll come to the Files tab, and I think I had 6 files. So one of them is going into caps, Upfish Value Prop Doc, Upfish YouTube Format Doc, Upfish FAQs, Upfish Writing Style, Upfish Apollo Calls Doc, and Upfish Google Ads Doc. So what's going to happen now is I will simply add in my Google links from, again, just a simple button to do. So I have these 3 FAQs, YouTube Format Value Prop. I'll attach it to a brand, which is unnamed for some reason. Yeah, because I forgot to give it a name, which is Upfish. All right. So I'll come back to the files and I'll map it to my brand, which is Upfish. And I'll just copy and paste this into the next 2. All right, so what happens now is that it knows in Airtable at least that the Upfish Value Prop, Upfish YouTube Format, and Upfish FAQs is matched to my company, Upfish. There is no assistant attached to it yet because I haven't run the automation. So there's no ID file for the files. There's nothing in Google Drive because I haven't added it in yet. I simply just have a link that I've created from my Google, in my Google Docs. So what I do now is I'll come to brands and I'll just make sure that my automation is turned on, which it is. So what's going to happen is I'm going to run this button, this ugly button, which again, you can change it. If you just click on edit field, you can change the style to be something like this or whatever. I mean, better, I don't care. Totally up to you. Whatever you, what you do, you live your truth. But what will happen is I'll click this button. It will trigger a webhook. If I look at my Airtable, we will see that I have an open ID from the files. So the files have been updated. Oops, a daisy. Don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. So we see here that I have some open ID from the files. So the files are updating to the assistant. Still going on. I have a vector store created. So all of the files for this particular assistant are in a vector store for Upfish. I have an assistant ID. So the ID has been consistent. I have a Google Drive link where all of the files have now been stored in addition to the Google Drive ID. All right, if I come into assistants to check, I have a marketing and sales manager, all right, with an ID for the brand Upfish and a vector store. And in the files here, for these 3 files I've uploaded, I have an open ID. So how did this work exactly? So coming into the automation, we can see exactly what happened here. So it received the webhook information that I sent. So this is to the record ID of Upfish. And then it's gone into Airtable, finding a record. So it's looked in my base of sales and marketing automation database. It's looked at the brands and it's found the brand I want to set up. So this is Upfish. All right. Next, it has gone into Google Drive and it is creating a folder. So I'm creating a folder just called Upfish. So again, if I have more than one brand, I'll have a folder in my Google Drive now called Upfish or Pugnatrix or George is Amazing or whatever, any kind of folder. I made it to a share folder, yes. I work by myself, but if you happen to work in a team or you want to share it with the people that you're working with, it's already shared, so you don't need to update any permissions. You can just share the link with them if you want. And then that will basically handle everything on the Google side. Next, we need to create a vector store. So we're making an API call to OpenAI. We're sending it to the URL v1 vector stores and I'm making a post call. And basically we're just creating a vector store with the name of a brand, in this case Upfish. So there's a vector store called Upfish. To that, I want it to create an assistant. So this is just a simple call to assistants, post call, fill out these two headers, content type and OpenAI beta. And I'm adding in the instructions. So these are the instructions that we had in the Airtable. You're an assistant for George Woodworth or whatever. The name of it, marketing and sales manager. Obviously I want to have a file search as a tool enabled. And I'm adding in a vector store ID from the step I created earlier to associate the vector store with the assistant. After that, I've created a Slack channel for no particular reason. Again, if you're working with outside companies, what this will do is, if I come back into Slack here, or into Airtable, and I come to brands, I have a Slack ID here. And now if I open up my Slack and just drag it along into this page here, I just move my head out of the way. So I've now created this channel called Upfish. All right, so I created this on, is it January 3rd today? No, this shouldn't be from now. This is the Upfish. Sorry, the other one was a test. You created this channel today, yeah. So I've created a channel called Upfish where I can add people to the channel or whatever, so I can talk to these people. Again, it's just me, so this purely for the sake of an example. They're coming back in, so I'm creating a channel, added in as well to join a channel. So obviously I've created it, I want to join it. Pretty simple, I just map it to the channel ID I had earlier. Then I'm updating the company. So the brand record that we got from the webhook, marking it to active in case it wasn't already marked as active. And I'm adding in the web view link from the create a folder module and the folder ID. So I have that handy for future automations. Plus I've added in the Slack channel ID. So now that I have created stuff, I can update the record. After that, I'm creating the assistant. So what I have here is I'm creating a table in assistants with the name of my assistant, the ID. So the ID is basically this one here. This is just the full-on assistant ID. So for future calls, I can map the assistant I want to use based on the brand that's generating the action. I also map it to the brand and the vector store. So again, if I come into Airtable and I come to assistants, we see here, I've got the name of it, I've got the ID, and I've mapped it to my brand, and I have the vector store. All right, so that's what that does. Then I have basically everything enclosed in this array aggregator. So what happens after this? I have an iterator that essentially is searching for the files. All right, so if I come down to number 46, files, this is from this one, the brand. So in the brand call, we have all of the files. So what is that? If I come back into here, brands, when I was creating the files, I had to match them to an ID. Remember? So when I was creating the files, I had to map them to a company brand. So now in the brand, I had those 3 files listed. So what we do here is I'm iterating those. So I'm getting all 3 of the ones that I've created, and then I'm finding the records. So I'm looking at my files tab now, and I'm saying, bring me back this file ID. So what were the files? Let me just remind myself. It was the Upfish value prop, the YouTube format, and the FAQs. So it's found those IDs, all right? Upfish FAQs, Upfish value prop. And then what it's doing is it's grabbing the file IDs, because what I'm doing is I'm copying and pasting a link. I want to make it as easy as possible. So what I have here is a simple regex to basically say, here is the link, grab me the ID from the URL. So again, if you don't know what that is, this is a full link, and everything after the D and before edit is the ID. And that's what I want to use in all of the API calls used with Google to get this particular document. So what I'm doing is, once I have those IDs here, as an example, this is the full link, now I have the ID, I can move the file. So when I create these files here, basically I'm just going to Google Docs and I'm opening up a file, because this is how it works in real life. I'm not thinking to myself, I need to create a document, I better go into Google Drive, find the right folder, open up the right subfolder, and then create a file, and then create a Google Doc from there. Or when I create a Google Doc, I don't say, all right, go to file, and then make a copy or move this to the right thing. I just do it, and then I forget about it, and all I really want to use is the link. So the advantage of this system is I'm taking that link, and it's built wherever it's stored, wherever I happen to make that particular file, and then using the folder ID, I'm moving it to the folder I just created earlier. So it's taking the version of this is I have that Google Doc I've made, and since I've created a folder way back here, I'm taking that link that I put in Airtable and I'm saying move whatever folder you have to this particular folder here. And then after that, I download that file. All right, so I basically say, all right, Upfish value prop, please download this and convert it to a Word document, and then upload it to my vector store. So I use the uploader file here, I map it to the Google Drive, I put it into Assistants. After that, I upload it to the vector store. So it's not just in a random place in OpenAI, it's attached to the vector store I created earlier, and that vector store is mapped to my system. I then update the file. All right, so here, update a record, and I update it with the new file name, the web view link, the OpenID from uploading it to the vector store, from uploading it to OpenAI, and the drive ID. And then I use the array aggregator basically just to close these three operations down into one. And then I create a message in my Slack. So again, I have another channel in Slack here in Upfish instructions that basically says, hey, ignore this one, this was from a test earlier. This one here, your assistant and vector store for Upfish is set up. Open your Airtable, go to the file section to make sure everything is there. So, all right, brilliant. And also invite George at Upfish to the channel. So I can just copy that and then come into this channel I've created and add that person. If I come back now to my Airtable, I'll see here, yeah, Upfish value prop. This has indeed uploaded. I have the right file ID, all good. But what about this? What about my writing style, my Apollo calls doc, my ads doc? I've already created the assistant, so what happens here? So this is where the second part of this automation comes into place, because there might be a point at which you open this up and I'll say, all right, gosh, I want to change something, and once I've changed it, I don't want to have to go through the effort of deleting the old file, uploading the new one. So let's just imagine here, I've changed this, and then I've also got some extra files, which I do have. Let me just grab the URLs for them quickly. So now, again, I map it to the brand I want. And you see here, it's automatically said, all right, it's Upfish, and this is the system I want to upload it to. But there are no OpenID files or anything like that because it's in a state of nothing happening. So we have a second automation here, updating and adding new files. So much like the other one, this works off of a webhook. So once I click the button, again, it's another ugly button. If you don't like this, change it. But what will happen here is when I press the button, the webhook runs, and this particular automation will start running. And in a few seconds, hopefully if nothing goes wrong, we'll see that there's a new OpenID attached to it and a new drive ID. And that will let me know that it's been updated to my, here we go, great. So we see here, it's now been updated. And so my assistant now has access to a writing style doc. I click on it again for the Apollo calls doc, and I'll click on it again for the Google doc. And eventually we'll see that this will get uploaded. So what exactly is happening here? All right, let me just come into successful maneuvers. So what's happened here is it's taken the webhook, and again, it's come into Airtable, and it's basically saying, where is the record ID attached here? Let me come back into the diagram to make this more obvious. So it's come into the Airtable to get a record. So it's looking at the files, and it's looking at the record ID of the button I just sent. And it's asking, is this already an OpenAI? Am I replacing an old file or am I uploading a new one? In this case, so I have a filter here basically that says, does the OpenID exist? And it didn't before, it was a brand new file. So it's gone into the fallback option and it's getting the record. So it's looking at my brand. So it's looking at the brand that's attached to that file, Upfish. It's grabbing the file ID from the link I uploaded, and it's moving it just like before in the previous automation. It's moving it into the Google Drive I have associated, the folder I have associated with my brand, Upfish. It downloads that file, it uploads it to OpenAI, it uploads it to the vector store, it updates the Airtable record, and then it sends me a Slack message here. So again, coming to Upfish instructions, and I get a Slack message to say my writing style doc has been successfully uploaded, calls doc, and Google Ads doc. So again, very, very, very simple to do. What happens if I am uploading one that already exists? So I'm not actually going to bother changing anything, but let's just imagine that I've updated my Google YouTube format one. So I'll press the button again. And what will happen this time is we'll see that the OpenID and the drive ID are going to change because it's going to delete the old version and replace it with the new one that I've just created. Perfect. So yeah, new ID, new drive ID. So what happened here? It's done the same thing. It's got the webhook and it's looked at the file record, but in this case, the OpenID exists. So it's getting the record from my brand, it's grabbing the file ID again from the link. It's copying the file into my Google Drive. It's deleting the old file that already existed. It's downloading the new one I have. It's uploading, and then there it just basically follows the same pattern as before. It uploads the new file to OpenAI. Sorry, this is deleting. I've misnamed this one. Delete old file. oops, rename, delete old file. So this one makes an API call to OpenAI, basically to say, here is a file, please delete it. Then it will upload the new one that we added into Airtable from the Google Drive. This one is called delete old file, but it's not deleting it. I mislabeled this. This is actually adding the file to the vector store. So it takes the new file ID and puts it in the vector store. So let me rename this. Upload new file. Oops, all caps, beautiful. And then it updates the record with the new information. So here, the file tab will have the new web contact link, the new file ID, and the new URL. And then it sends a message again in Slack. So in my Slack now, Upfish YouTube format has been successfully updated to Upfish Assistant. So again, as we saw here with the last modified, we have the new ID, the new Drive ID, and the new WebView link. All right, so what does this mean? It means that I now have an assistant that has full access to my value prop doc. So it should in theory know all of the important stuff about my company. When I want it to create YouTube videos for me, or we do it in the description that I want for this particular brand. When people email into me, whether it be through response through Instantly or just an email to my inbox to be like, hey, how much does school cost? It will automatically be able to say, $49 a month or whatever, and this is all the stuff you get for it, and then send the email on my behalf. Has the writing style, so when it wants to create blogs or LinkedIn posts or whatever, or emails, it knows exactly how to do it. Has the Apollo Calls doc for when it wants to do outbound work, and has the Google Ads when it wants to do Google Ads work. And then as we go on, if I want to add more files, it's very, very easy. So again, this is an automation we've seen before. Very, very easy to set up, not particularly impressive or important. But the main thing here is that if I then want to create a new brand called like Upfish 2, I can upload new files, and it means that every time something happens, so if I'm running a social campaign, for example, and I say I want 20 Instagram posts, I can say I want it to run for Upfish, and I also want 10 LinkedIn posts about something different for George's haircut company. Speaking of which, I gave myself my own haircut. Pretty good, eh? So if I say George's haircut company is running a 10% discount, I'll put this in my campaign goal. Some messages for me to put on for that one. And then because the brand is linked to my Instagram ID, and this must have a default. Yep, get rid of that. That's why that happened. So because obviously the Instagram ID, the YouTube channel ID, the Google Analytics, all of this stuff is different. So that is the first step. To this, we're going to look into basically how we set up email campaigns to go out first. So we'll go through this tab by tab. First, we'll look at how to set up outbound campaigns, ad campaigns, social campaigns, monitor contacts and opportunities, blah, 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 blah. All right, brilliant. Thank you. If you like it, please like, subscribe. Again, this is available on my school. So the way this works is all of these automations, all of these templates, all of these Airtables, all of these videos, blah, 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 blah. It's in the school. You just join it and it's there. You can have it. It's $49 a month. So you can stay for as long as you want or as little as you want. If you think you need help, check out my Gumroad page. And basically there's a package there, all of the exact same stuff, plus lifetime access to school. But you can, get like a one-on-one calls with me where I'll just walk you through it and get it set up for your particular case. And if you're totally lazy and you don't want to do it, but you want it for your company, there's a package there where I just do everything and run it all for you using this. And because it's all automated, it's pretty cheap. So please like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. Thank you.